Hello, lovely humans, and welcome or welcome back. Whichever way, I'm glad you're here. In case you tuned in last week, talked a little bit about how to start your fitness journey. This week, we have some new ideas for things that I wish that I would have known when I first started, so I'm gonna share them with you. And of course, a new wig. Because I woke up and lately I've been feeling that toxic voice in the back of my head that said, chop off all your hair and dye it a questionable color. Why would I do that when I have a wig and it's, removable?
Crisis averted.
Let's get started. I wish starting out I had a better understanding of just how many freaking calories your beverages are. I've always heard don't drink your calories, but I didn't really take it to heart until I actually started calorie counting. Lemonade in particular at restaurants, like the flavored lemonade, oh, I love it. However, I'm a very thirsty human, so by the end I've had more calories in lemonade than I have in meals. Wish I had known that sooner. Trust me, even at restaurants, if it's something specialty, they usually add a lot of sugar. Me personally, I usually order water at restaurants, so it wasn't as big of a deal, except for the lemonade places, but I was in love with milk. I don't know if you've ever heard of Fuzzy's Tacos, but their cups are like this big, and I'm not exaggerating. I would have 2 of those of 2% milk with my lunch and dinner at minimum. Oh, damn, girl. There's a lot of calories in milk, even though it's supposed to be like the healthier beverage, or at least that's what we were told growing up if you're like in your 30s. Trust me, don't go too wild. Check your calories, make sure it's in there if you're gonna have something. Secondly, I am an enthusiastic human being.
Obvious.
And that's okay, but when you're in the gym, make sure that your enthusiasm isn't going so wild that you get injured. Before you start trying to be all like, I'm a buff queen, make sure that you are able to have the right form at lower weights and master that completely before moving up to higher weights. People that try to just have that, ego trip and start out with the 20-pound dumbbells when they maybe should start at like 10 are the ones that end up getting injured, because if it's too heavy for you, you're not gonna be able to maintain the right form. Don't get cocky. Also, in relation to lifting weights, I know a lot of women are really scared to do anything with weight training at all because they think that they're gonna get like insanely buff and look like a man. First of all, there ain't nothing wrong with muscles.
Michelle McDaniel is a great example of this. She might joke that she has biceps to scare away the boys, but honestly, she's a fit queen and absolute body goals. There's nothing wrong with having muscles. It means you strong, ladies, and that's awesome.
But you wanna look how you wanna look, and I respect that. Well, I would like to be a jacked queen. I also need to go to the gym a lot more for that. Keep in mind that all those male bodybuilders, the ones that hit the gym all the time, it took them forever lifting super heavy. Oh, my battery's about to die. Oh, we'll try and go fast. It took them forever lifting super heavy to get to that size. It is okay to lift weights. You're not gonna be like a bodybuilder overnight. If you find that you're getting a little bit too much tone somewhere in there, which will take a long time, you can also do longer reps with lower weights. It's okay. Also, cardio's okay too. Just make sure you're finding a balance of both. The heart is a muscle, it needs its exercise. There's cardio, but your regular muscles need it to get yourself some weights, please. My battery died. Keep your fingers crossed this one lasts through the rest of it. So where did we leave off? Okay, so there's gonna be a lot of things that you love that you feel like pressured in to giving up. Let's say pizza, for example, because it's delicious. Unfortunately, gives you heartburn, in my case at least, and it is extremely calorie dense. I want you to know that there are a few different options. Yes, you can remake healthier versions of all your favorite foods, but you're gonna need to be aware that some of them are gonna suck so badly it's not worth eating. Half the fun is finding out which one it is. But for example, with ranch, that is what I would drench my pizza in. And I still like to dunk it. I just dunk a little more lightly, and instead of using ranch, first I switched to light ranch. And then I found out that you can get ranch seasoning packets and stir it into plain Greek yogurt. So higher protein, less of mayo, egg, oils, and all that. It doesn't taste exactly the same, and none of your copycats copycats really will for the most part, but sometimes you can find something that is sufficient enough to where you don't feel like you're missing out. What I do want to encourage you to do though is to try and branch out completely with new meals.
In terms of branching out, here are two of my favorites. First, we started doing basically like a veggie slaw on top of our hot dogs that I found a recipe for, and it is the best thing I think I've ever eaten in my life. The second thing I tried was a bean salad with a bunch of fresh herbs, and y'all, it was life-changing. Aside from the hot dog portion of one of those, everything was brand new and my mouth was so happy. Highly, highly recommend getting out of your comfort zone with food.
Don't only try to find copycats, because overall, if you only do the copycats of like your original recipes, there's a pretty good chance you're just gonna get really burned out on it, because nothing really ever is quite close enough to the original. Like, it's good every now and then, and sometimes just have the freaking original thing you want, but have it in moderation. Just kind of depends on where you are in your journey. You should also know that at some point you're gonna hit a weight loss plateau. That's normal. Your body's gonna fight you because your body is designed to maintain homeostasis, so balance. Even if you ate like an absolute garbage before, your body was used to that and where it is. So sometimes it's gonna fight you. It takes a while to get adjusted. It doesn't mean you're not meant to be at a lower weight. It doesn't mean you're doing something wrong. It's just part of the process as your body gets adjusted to newer foods and newer habits. It's like when you start a new job for the first time. If it's an early shift, you're gonna be like, for like the first week, but eventually your body starts naturally waking you up, hopefully, closer to the time, like spit? Closer to the time where you would normally wake up. It's the same concept for weight loss. For the same reason, because at some point you are gonna hit a plateau, make sure that if you're just getting really like fed the frick up with that scale, just get rid of it for like a month. Don't weigh yourself, but keep doing the same habits that you're doing. It's gonna be a lot easier to stay on track, and you're gonna notice things like your clothes fitting better, feeling less out of breath, feeling a little bit stronger. You might start noticing those before you actually see the difference in pounds on the scale. So don't get too scale focused. There's also always going to be an excuse to eat out or have dessert. I work in the healthcare field and our patients are absolutely wonderful, and they tend to bring lots and lots of like thank you cookies and cakes and desserts and things like that. They are always going to be there, so I've had to kind of, and still am working on, training myself to be like, hey, this is really awesome, I'm glad this is here, but you know, is this something new? Have I already had dessert today? Should I just save it for later rather than just instantaneously inhaling like 3 cookies before I even have time to think about it? It's the same way with going out to eat, especially if you live in the United States. We know that restaurant culture is a big thing, and it is fun, and it is also how a lot of us socialize. So it can be really frustrating if you feel like your friends are going out to eat all the time and you feel like you can't join them. In some instances, you're probably better off not joining them if you just can't be trusted to not go like whole hog, but do know that there are alternate things you can do. Either start suggesting different types of plans with your friends, eat before you go, or maybe take a second and look at the menu of whatever the place is to see if there's something that actually could be appropriate for your diet. But you have to take a second to do the planning, and just know that sometimes it's worth it and sometimes it's not, and that's okay. But don't miss out on all the experiences either. Like, you have to be the one to find balance and find, sorry, like hiccups. You have to be the one to find balance and find what works for you. Speaking of you, you're your own worst enemy.
And I am offended, but I get it.
You gotta find a game plan for what to do when you're on the struggle bus situation. There's gonna be days where you're like, I hate everything, I don't wanna move, I don't wanna get up.
Well, I'll just leave the door open and go sit on the couch.
Rather than waiting until you're in the mode of frustration, whatever it is that you're struggling with, in my case, it's usually not going to town on some dessert item, find something as a game plan and put it in place. For example, instead of waiting until I'm like drooling over sugar, I already have a game plan in place, and I know that the second I start just being like, oh my gosh, I'm obsessing over it and it's not an appropriate time to be having dessert, I'm like, okay, it's time to distract myself. First, I'm gonna go drink some water. If I'm still struggling, I'm gonna check myself and say, okay, am I actually just hungry and do I need to have lunch? And if neither of those are the case, I usually try to find a different project I can work on, like making these videos. Make sure you have a game plan. You also need to be aware that your diet is gonna matter more than your exercise. I think I mentioned this a little bit in the last video, but basically there's that whole cliche of diet is 80% and exercise is 20%. It's true, go with it. Be active, but don't completely ignore your diet either. By the same token, don't go the opposite direction. Like if you have a cupcake, don't freak out and spend the next 6 hours in the gym. Balance is important. If you mess up for that one meal, okay, it happened, but instead of either doing freakish amounts of exercise that are not sustainable and could possibly hurt yourself, or restricting extremely much later on in the day, just move on to the next meal and be like, what are healthy choices I can make for the next meal? It's a lot healthier than having that all or none thinking that can be really toxic and really kind of hazardous as a whole. We're almost there, folks. We got 2 more. There are a bajillion weight loss tips and tricks in this video and just on the internet and everywhere, friends and family, all of that. They're all over the place. You've got to understand that no matter how many like tips and tricks you follow for being healthier, if you don't actually address the issue of what made you overweight in the first place or what got you to an unhealthy point in life, it's not ever gonna be enough because you're gonna keep coming back to it. I know that no matter how many tips and tricks I do to like hide myself from my credit card from going out to eat, that I'm still gonna have to do the work with my therapist to figure out what the heck is it that is making it so hard for me to have a healthy relationship with food and with sugar. It is not an overnight process. You're gonna get disappointed. You're gonna get fed up sometimes. Just keep trying, and honestly, get some therapy. Highly recommend. I know it's in like every other video, but it's that important. And last one, we touched on it a little bit, but moderation. There is no food that is inherently evil or horrible. Yes, some do have more nutritional value than others, but it doesn't mean that you can never have them. Like, obviously, I'm not over here eating a slice of pizza like, oh my God, I feel so healthy right now. Instead, I'm probably, you know, like gassy and my skin got greasy. But it doesn't mean you can't have it. You can find things in moderation. Either have pizza rarely or not as often, have less of the pizza, or have, say, a single piece of pizza and pair it with a salad. You've got to find what is going to be sustainable for you. Because like I said earlier, it's going for the rest of your life. And I don't know about you, but I don't want to give up pizza for the rest of my life.
Sounds horrible.
I do, however, need to do the work to make sure that I'm not going to eat like 9 slices in one sitting. This is not a buffet. I love buffets. That I do avoid. Congratulations, you made it through all 10 tips. Thank you so much for hanging out. If you're still here, just know that you are absolutely wonderful, and here's your reminder to subscribe so you can be there for any more videos I might post. Next one should be super fun. And I will see you next time. Bye bye.